Joining us now, Democratic Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey. Cory, after such a powerful day yesterday, where the impeachment managers laid out moment by moment what happened, I just want to ask you, what was January 6th like for you? What was your experience of the events?
Well, it was difficult to relive it in a way. It was a very emotional moment, and you looked around the chamber, as I did often, and you just see on both sides of the aisle members deeply affected by what we were seeing. And then, of course, we were on that floor, so we did not know all the dots that they connected about what was going on outside, what was going on in the White House. And that was what was so damning to me, to realize that in the midst of an insurrection, in the midst of murderous, violent people who came to kill, dressed in army fatigues and armed with, tasers and bear spray, Donald Trump did not call on them to stop. He actually further fueled that murderous rage by tweeting in real time things like that his vice president had, in a sense, betrayed them. Those tweets were read out loud while Vice President Pence was hiding with his family. And so when you start to see these actions that Donald Trump took during the siege, you not only see a person that was inciting the riot, but in that sense, even directing it towards individuals. And that, to me, is such a profound betrayal of his oath, of his obligations, and of this nation.
You have Republican counterparts who are still unmoved, even after all of that laid out in plain sight. What do you say to your Republican counterparts who will not vote to impeach despite everything that we saw and that you all experienced?
There are moments in American history that are not partisan ones, that are moral ones. This is a moral moment. What happened in our country will be talked about for generations to come. And if we ignore this, if we excuse it, if we do nothing, we invite this horror back on our country again. This is a moment where we need profiles in courage. And we know that if this was a President Obama who fueled lies in the face of dozens of judges of his own appointments who said it was a lie, if it was President Barack Obama who fueled lies and people in his own party, governors and Secretary of States, if we had a President Obama who incited people to come to the Capitol because he said it would be wild and told them to fight like hell, and if those people who stormed the Capitol were majority black, we know that some of those folks who want to ignore, excuse, and turn a page, we know what their posture would be in this moment. And so I just know, ringing in my ears, is that quote that we all know. The only thing necessary for evil to be triumphant is for good people to do nothing. The murder of Brian Sicknick was evil. The deaths that happened at our Capitol was evil. The assault on this sacred citadel that I'm standing in right now was an assault on what is good and decent in our country. And so this is a moral moment. History will judge whether we show courage to simply tell the truth and hold accountable the person who is responsible, because we all know that but for Donald Trump, but for his actions over the weeks and days leading into that, and then in the hours of the actual assault, but for him, this would not have happened.
Senator, it's Willie. It's good to see you this morning. We've heard, and you just mentioned, reports of some Republican senators who were moved to tears in some cases by what they saw in that room yesterday. I'm sure you talked to a few of them. There is a group, and we heard from them loudly last night, who will be moved by nothing they see. Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio, Ron Johnson, you know the list of characters. But is it your sense that there are persuadable Republicans still, that there are people who watched the evidence yesterday, who watched the video yesterday, who will see the presentation from House managers today and could be moved to convict Donald Trump?
So I'm not going to fix myself in any certitude in this moment, because I definitely think that there are higher forces calling to the conscience of my colleagues. I have been surprised on the Senate floor before. I saw an aging and ailing John McCain turn against the tides of his party and choose patriotism when it came to the health care of millions of Americans. I was very surprised, I'll be frank with you, by the words of Mitch McConnell on the night, the firm rebuke of President Trump that he issued. So I don't know. At the end of the day, I love my country and I love the Senate as much as people want to criticize it and bash it. I wouldn't be serving my life years in this institution if I didn't believe in the possibility to do great things and to make our nation a more beloved community. So I just want to say, let's wait and see, be hopeful, but also realistic in terms of the outcome.
What is your explanation, Senator, for people who did come out of that presentation yesterday and say it was, quote, offensive and absurd, as Lindsey Graham said, or as Rick Scott said, quote, a complete waste of time? Is it as plain as it seems that they remain fearful of Donald Trump and his voters?
I don't even want to go on that odyssey of trying to explain comments like that. And it's not for me to sit in judgment of any of my colleagues. Their judgment is going to have to be their own maker and history. And I dare say that history will be harsh on what we say here, should we not stand up and speak unequivocal truth that what happened here was wrong, and that responsibility lies at the feet of a president who swore an oath, not just to defend the Constitution, but he swore an oath to perform the most powerful role in our nation, to protect our country, to defend our citizens. And during a violent, murderous riot, sieging the Capitol, when people around him were begging him to intervene, a man that so gratuitously tweeted things like, stop the steal, stop the fraud, he did nothing. And worse than that, he targeted the murderous rebellion at his own vice president, who lay in hiding in this Capitol with his family while people sought him out chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." I do not understand how anybody in this sacred body could say that that was right, could stay silent and not condemn that with all the force of their being.
And with that in mind, Senator Booker, we're asking all of our guests to choose somebody that they want to highlight for Black History Month. Who do you choose this morning?
Robert Smalls. He should be lionized in our country, but few people know who he is. He served as a slave on a ship called the Planter during the Civil War. He mutinied on that ship, stole it from his slaveholders, and then tried to get by Fort Sumter and dressed as if he was the captain, and then turned away from Fort Sumter towards Union lines and was able to convince them not to fire on him. And then he served as a member of that ship, and eventually in battle, when his captain wanted to surrender, he mutinied again and got that boat out of harm's way, saying that if they capture you, you will be treated as an officer, I will be killed, and the other blacks on this ship. He then went on to integrate trolley cars in Philadelphia. He then went on to introduce the first bills for public schools in South Carolina, and eventually served here in the Congress. He is a great hero of America, a tremendous person before his time. And unfortunately, like so many African-American heroes, very few Americans know him, and I hope more will learn about him and others that unfortunately are not taught in our schools.
Thank you. Senator Cory Booker, thank you very much.